With politics for a moment, we do have an update on a story that we've been tracking this week. The Nashville School Board will now be a fully Democrat board after candidates were required for the first time to declare their political party when running. And it comes as a movement of parents across the country is saying that activists in public schools are promoting what they say are harmful agendas, such as critical race theory or gender identity. They want to have a say in their child's curriculum. In Florida, leaders recently sponsored a bill that would have allowed the Sunshine State to have partisan elections. That bill did die in subcommittee in March, but some leaders are still fighting for it.
To me, it comes back to transparency. This is an issue about giving a voter as much information as you can about a candidate, and something that I think we should bring back.
Well, some parents we spoke with are uncomfortable with the idea of partisan school boards, as school meetings have already become more intense.
Now there's a side, whereas before it was like, these were our kids, these were our schools. This was something that we could all work on together. I mean, and it really just has flattened the conversation into like a right versus left conversation.
Yeah, and so we want to ask our panel, should politics stay out of schools? Let's start with Andrea.
Well, when have politics been out of the school boards? I think people are just kind of waking up to the fact that it's actually been decades now. The conservatives, the Republican Party, abdicated their responsibility to the school boards years ago. The Democrats took control over it. They've turned them in from education centers into indoctrination centers. And look, the battle for the future of America is taking place in our classrooms, and it's been going on for a long time, particularly got jacked up under the Obama administration. And I think Americans are just now waking up to it. And I think we have a right to know who's running for school board. And I think the party affiliation at least gives a glimpse to it.
Jason, I see you nodding there.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, ultimately, I wish it wasn't about politics, and I wish partisanship was completely out of it. But at the end of the day, we are now most passionate, parents are certainly most passionate about certain issues that are inextricably tied to politics, critical race theory, gender identity. That tells us a little bit about what the candidate might stand for if they have a D or an R or some other letter next to their name. And I think that there is a valid argument to be made to be able to learn a little bit more about the worldview that goes into, potentially that will go into decision making from these school board members.
Well, in 2013, one North Carolina county passed a bill to require partisan school board candidates, and one incumbent actually changed his party registration as a tactic to help his election, and it worked. So, I mean, does it even matter if people are just going to manipulate the system? Let's go to you, Rayad.
I think that's something to consider, but I think we need to go back to something that you briefly highlighted, Natasha, so I appreciate it. Over the past 5 to 10 years, a handful of states, typically conservative-leaning states, have been pushing this forward of trying to have partisan school board elections. But if we look at the facts, literally only 2 of those, right, North Carolina, Tennessee, you mentioned them, made it happen. Throughout the country, over 3/4 of our local governments have nonpartisan elections for their mayoral candidates and their city council candidates. So why would we think that in those locations they should be allowed to then also have, on the complete opposite of what they're doing for their actual positions, a school board election that is partisan? I think what that does is it kind of takes us to something where some of our other panelists have mentioned, where we're now looking at politics over the people, and those people are students. And I think that it's going off of facts. We keep throwing out hot button issues, hot topics, critical race theory, gender identity, et cetera, et cetera. It's bigger than that, right? This is the education that our students are learning. They need to learn facts. And if one other fact that should be mentioned, if we're going to talk about facts, only 94 of our country's 1,000 largest school districts have partisan elections. Why are we moving towards that? And this is something that's happening in more conservative-leaning states like North Carolina and Tennessee.
Dr. Laura, earlier when we were hearing from that mother who was speaking, sharing her thoughts, and also, frankly, speaking about a lot of these school meetings that are becoming so divisive and just shouting matches. I saw you reacting to that. Can I bring your voice in here?
Yes, the reason I reacted is because the widespread political polarization at these school board meetings is really disgusting to me, to be quite honest. I think it's so sad that we've gotten away from the purpose of schools, which should be to provide our children with the best education possible. And, we as a panel, we've all agreed that, politics have been around for a long time. But the question is, where do we go from here? And I think what a possibility would be, or what I would propose, is we should say that for every school board, for instance, you have 3 Democrats, 3 Republicans, whatever, but to have a set number of seats based on those political affiliations, since we know they're already there anyway, to try to bring back balance to our education system. I think it's not the right approach to say, well, it's always been this way, that's the reality. The question is, how do we get past that reality and get back to educating our children?
I mean, Jason, do you think a plan like that would be workable?
No, that is so incredibly anti-democratic. I think that the people should be able to vote for the folks who will represent them on the school board, regardless of their political affiliation. I mean, in part, I hear your point, because we already know that they're partisan. You can call it nonpartisan all you want. I live in Seattle. I know the political beliefs of every single member of the school board, as well as the council and the mayor, despite them technically being nonpartisan positions. Our prosecutor is a nonpartisan role. We know the partisan politics behind it. So we're just being a little bit more honest. And I think ultimately it makes it a little bit more easier to have an informed vote.
Andrea, I don't think it is anti-democratic by any means. I think, correct, if anything, we're trying to make sure that everyone has a seat at the table. And considering, again, the widespread polarization, I think it's the wrong approach just to look the other way.
Andrea, I heard you reacting. Andrea, I heard you reacting as well.
Well, actually, there's something that's tempting with the idea, right, of guaranteeing that there's equal representation of both parties. But I have to say that, the schools we were never supposed to have this centralized Department of Education. Our schools were always supposed to be handled at the local level. And I think that every decision, if we're going to give parents back the control over their school board, I think that has to begin with the vote, and that they have the right then to vote all Democrats to control the school board or all Republicans to control the school board. And to say and to assert that the absence of an R or a D after a candidate's name somehow keeps it from being partisan is very naive and just a little too. Let's have more transparency for the voters, give them more control. Both parties need to be making their case to the parents on the street and be willing to answer questions and not hide. There's been too many Democrats trying to pretend that CRT and the far left recruitment into transgenderism isn't happening in our schools, but there's been video to prove otherwise. We need transparency for the voters.
Rayad, can I bring your voice in here? A final thought.
Yes, thank you. Again, I think we need to look beyond these two issues. And here our two panelists continue to talk about critical race theory and gender identification. Again, these are facts. This is true. These are things that happen. These are things that are happening. We need to educate our students. I'm not saying that we need to go in depth on every single thing possible. What I'm saying is we should have nonpartisan elections, because if we really think about it, a prior administration, right? A prior administration is where a lot of this vitriol, a lot of this political prowess has put everyone against each other. And now we're talking about things like critical race theory like it didn't happen. And so I do want to say that as a person of color, we need to look at things from a much bigger perspective, especially when it comes to education. It's just not for our kids. That's for education in high school as well as in college and advanced degrees.
I hear you.
CRT is analysis. It is not fact.
It's based on
opinion.
It's utilizing law and you for having.
No.
Go ahead, Jason.
Not in a high school or a middle school. In grad school, you are correct. That's how it's being taught. Clearly, the conversation around CRT in high schools and below is not about teaching law. It's about going through a certain worldview and lens to frame stories specifically around history.
It's not utilizing anything to frame things of history. We're utilizing history of things that actually happened, and we're using it even if you want to go to people who are very, very young. I remember when I was in 5th grade, I fell in love with history because I not only learned about the American Revolution, which was great for America, it gave America independence, I also got the chance to learn about the slave trade and the various things that happened as a result of it.
That's not CRT.
So I think that we need.
That's not CRT, and that's being
CRT is utilizing, right? We're utilizing history, facts, and law, and providing an interpretation of it. We're not going out teaching things that aren't true.
Panel, I certainly appreciate your time. I wish we could keep talking about this because obviously there's so much to speak about. We do have one more topic that we want to make sure we have time to get to, though.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.